What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I have for you guys is a little bit different of a video. This is going over fault and what is wrong with it. A week ago, I posted a thread on Reddit about fault, and I asked what the community thought was wrong with fault. And with that, I got some really interesting responses. Today, we're going to be going over a lot of those responses, and if you want to read them yourself, a link to the Reddit thread will be in the description, or you can pause the video while they are on the screen. Of course, these are some opinionated kind of things, and if you have a different opinion, agree, disagree, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really curious what you guys on YouTube, maybe you're not on Reddit, maybe you didn't respond to the thread. I want to know what you guys think is wrong with fault as well. Of course, before we get into the video, if you do go on to enjoy the content, be sure to leave it a like, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. With that, we are going to get right into what the community thinks is wrong with fault. Alright guys, starting us off, we have the feedback that was the most overlapped. This was the one that I got the most times, and that would be matchmaking. I'm sure a lot of you guys expected this to be up here because it was a really big problem, and it still is. Now, this was before the 5-stack fix, where 5 stacks are now actually limited to 3 stacks, but a lot of the problems remain. Mostly that matchmaking is just bad. High players play against low players all the time. I'm assuming it's just to keep queues down so that you're not sitting in a 10-minute queue or a much higher queue if you're a high-ranked player, but their breadth of how wide the matchmaking allows you to play within is too wide. That's it. I would much rather sit in a 10-minute queue to get into a competitive match with people around my skill level than a 2-minute queue to play 10 minutes of a game where I get stomped. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on that one, especially the lower ranked players where they're just not having fun. It's not fun to get into a match with top 50s every game and just lose. So that was definitely a wide-reaching complaint that I've heard a lot, and it's still going on even with only 3 stacks. That didn't incredibly solve the problem, and a lot of it is going to be tied to the amount of players that play the game. Right now, daily concurrent is in the 500s, and that's about it. That's not enough people split between 4 servers to really justify matchmaking good enough. The main fix for this is going to be more players. More players playing the game will give more players to evenly match each game. But I don't know how they're going to bring more players to the game at this rate. It's been going down pretty steadily since it came out, and they're going to need some big change to bring players back to it. But I'm not a game dev, so I'm not the one that's coming up with those ideas. So with that, we are going to move on to the next part. The next section that we've got is about game audio. This is one that I have some personal feelings about because I really think that audio ties a game together. Because if you're running fault on a lower end rig, you aren't on high settings. The game looks fantastic on high settings. However, if you're on low settings, you don't get quite the same visuals. The game still looks pretty good. But what you should get on low settings is audio. You should get good audio. The game should sound really good, even if you can't see how good the game looks. And right now, that's not coming through. The audio is just not good. There's really no ambience at all in the game. You can't tell when you're getting hit unless you're at 20% health. And you can't really tell when you're hitting people other than seeing damage numbers come up. I think this is a bigger problem than Strange Matter really realizes. When audio was put into the game, you guys will feel a difference. I guarantee it. And this is one that I just really hope gets into the game sooner than later. I think it's something that is kind of being overlooked in the state of getting matchmaking and balancing and stuff like that fixed. They're kind of skipping on audio, and I think that they need to not do that. Once again, I'm not a game dev, so don't quote me on whether or not the game dev should focus audio before dev, but that's just my opinion. I think that when audio gets added, it will be a really good change to the game. It'll bring the whole game together, tie it in, make you feel like you're really in the world of Agora, stuff like that. I think it will be a very good change, and I'm sure that they're working on it, and we'll get it when we get it. Moving forward, we are going to get into some more niche complaints, and with that, I won't be covering quite all of them. A link to the Reddit thread will be in the description below if you choose to go read it yourself, but with that, we'll get into the next complaint, and that's going to be about items. This is one that I agree with, and it's the fact that items don't have any art. There's no item art. And the reason for that is because they are working on other stuff. I'm sure the item art is being worked on in the background. I just wish that it was being worked on faster, and that sounds kind of mean. But when a newer player loads into a match and there's no art for the items they want to buy, they have no idea what items they're getting. It'll take them 10 matches to get used to what items they're supposed to buy, which items are good, how to navigate to those items, and it feels a little incomplete. A game without item art is kind of like a game where the models are all T-posing. It's just not a whole. It's 3/4 of it. You have the items, you have the effects, but you are missing something on top. It's like the cherry that isn't there, or the frosting not on your cake. It's just something that I'm sure they're working on and that will be out soon, but I really would have liked to see it before they went into this closed beta early access thing. I think item art should have been in the game before that. Once again, not a game dev. Don't listen to me if you don't want to, but with that, we're going to move into some more complaints here. The next one is something I only saw once on my Reddit thread, but I've seen a couple more times on Reddit since I posted mine, and that is about new players and onboarding. Basically, there's no tutorial, there's no way to learn the game unless you watch streams, watch content. That's the only way to learn the game right now outside of literally jumping into a match. This is something that I know it's hard. AI is really difficult to make for games, and I totally get that there's no AIs in the game. But the part that I don't understand is why you cannot get into the map alone. I think you should be able to load into a map single player. You can test to get stuff against creeps, test different jungle starts. This would be super helpful for jungle starts. And for new players, you can get in, test your sensitivity, test your keybinds, see how the game feels, see if you can run on what settings, see what gets you the most frames. This is something that would just be super helpful. I really don't know why it's not in the game yet. And I think it's really necessary. If the new players are to stick with the game, there needs to be some kind of tutorial. Okay, guys, this last section is going to be sort of rapid firing, some bullet points, just throwing stuff out there that I've seen that I agree with. And with that, we are going to start with minions. They don't really do what you'd expect them to do all the time, and that's a bad thing. Minions should be predictable. That's what they're supposed to be. The camera doesn't face forward on respawn. This is something that seems really small until you respawn for the 10th time in a match, and you're facing backwards, and you just lose it, right? You're going to rage at that point. The game ends really fast. There's not really any core destruction. It's just you do the last hit to the core and you have an end screen. I've seen people where if you're clicking too fast on something, you can hit the continue button and go straight to the main menu and you have no idea that the game ended. Kind of just feels like you got kicked out of a match. Raptors seem a little funky. I don't like them as an objective personally. I don't think that the game needs to be give your carry 3 Raptors and then you play Protect the President. It feels a little single player for a MOBA. I think that the Fangtooth, the predecessor, was a really good adaptation of these Raptors, and I think it's something that Fault needs to look at, giving a more team-wide buff rather than this single player, and then you just make sure that that player lives, they carry. Feels really whack. No penetration, really. I mean, physical, you've got a couple more things with FMJ specifically, and on that you have T rounds as well. You get some more penetration on that side for carries. Mages have almost no options for pen. You have boots, and then you have Opus, and that's it. That's all the pen you get. And with that, tanks are really hard to kill, period. And that's why you see 3 tanks in every match. It's not on PS4 yet. This was one that I saw that kind of caught me off guard because Fault did release a thing saying they were PS4 partners. And that's really confusing wording. PS4 partners does not mean your game's ready to go on PS4. It means that you told PS4 that you had a game you wanted to put on there. They were like, oh yeah, that game looks kind of cool. Come back to us when you have a player base. That's basically what partner means, and with that, they need to prove that they can get players to download it before they can actually put it on PS4. So I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. Mouse sensitivity was another one that it resets or changes every time you load into a match, so you have to go in. You don't have to change the slider, you just have to move it and then hit save, and then you're good to go. Just a weird little thing. I don't know why they can't just be like, yo, your mouse sensitivity is the same when it says it's the same. Whack. And finally, the last thing that I've got is the ping system. It's weird because you're used to it moving with your mouse, and it doesn't. Where you click does not put the ping system there, and it's just something that if you're a Paragon player, or even if you've played Predecessor or Overprime, you're kind of used to it moving, and it throws you off the first time, few times you use it. But that's actually all that I have for you guys. So, as always, if you have anything to say, agree, disagree, comments, concerns, leave them in the comments below. I'm really curious what the community thinks about Fault right now. So please let me know. If you did enjoy the video, please do leave it with a subscribe. It helps out a lot. As always, guys, I have been Pinzo. This video is donezo. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.